In March of 2020, supermarket shelves in Sydney, London, and New York emptied within hours. People shoved each other in the aisles, grabbing the last packages and tearing them out of one another's hands. Police were not called because of a fight over bread or water. Police were called because of toilet paper. Videos spread across social media showing grown adults screaming as they pulled the same package in opposite directions. Factories ran around the clock, yet stores still could not restock fast enough. What seemed like the most mundane roll of paper turned into a symbol of global panic within days. But this moment was only an echo of a far older and far messier story, one that began long before humanity had even invented paper at all. 9,000 years ago, long before the first cities and the first laws, people were already facing the same daily problem that no civilization has ever managed to avoid. Archaeologists studying Stone Age sites find evidence that the earliest solution was simply whatever nature offered nearby. Leaves from large plants, soft moss from damp forests, grass, smooth stones pulled from riverbanks. The choice depended entirely on what happened to grow or lie close at hand. In desert regions, broken shards of pottery were pressed into use. In snowy regions, people used snow itself. These were not quirks of taste, but a harsh selection process based purely on availability and whatever softness could be found. In ancient Greece, archaeologists uncover something more deliberate. Broken pieces of pottery, known as pessoi, were carefully smoothed down and kept in piles near public latrines. On some of these fragments, the names of enemies or political rivals are scratched into the surface, and historians consider this one of the earliest recorded examples of dark humor in human history. Using a shard bearing a hated name was seen as a small private act of revenge. It turned the most humiliating daily necessity into a tiny moment of personal control. In ancient Rome, the problem was solved on a scale worthy of an empire. In large public latrines built to serve dozens of people at once, a shared sponge fixed to a long wooden handle ran along the drainage channel. According to ancient writers, this tool, known as a xylospongium, was passed from person to person, dipped into running water or vinegar between uses. Historians still debate how widespread the shared version of this tool truly was, but its existence is confirmed by archaeological finds. To a modern person, the very idea of sharing a hygiene tool with dozens of strangers sounds horrifying. But for a Roman citizen, it was simply an ordinary part of the morning, as routine as a walk to the forum. In China, development took an entirely different path, and this is where the technology that would eventually conquer the world was born. Paper was invented in China centuries before the Common Era, and by the 6th century, a court official named Yan Jitui was already writing that paper bearing the words of sages should not be used for hygienic purposes out of respect for the wisdom written on it. The very existence of this warning proves that ordinary, unmarked paper was already being used for exactly that purpose. By the 14th century, under the Ming dynasty, court records show that an imperial bureau produced tens of thousands of sheets of soft paper every year for the private use of the royal household alone. Ordinary people would not enjoy that same comfort for many centuries to come. In the Islamic world, a parallel and very different tradition took root, one based on the use of water. This practice, known as istinja, was rooted in religious teachings about bodily cleanliness and was widely regarded as more hygienic than any dry alternative. Medieval travelers and chroniclers repeatedly noted that European customs of the time appeared far less clean compared to the daily life of Islamic cities, where personal hygiene was governed not only by habit but by religious law itself. Medieval Europe, meanwhile, entered an age of desperate improvisation. Peasants used hay, straw, burdock leaves, sheep's wool, and in winter, even handfuls of snow. Wealthier families could afford scraps of old linen cloth, which were then washed and reused again and again. In castles and monasteries, rags tied to a rope near the latrine served entire households at once. There was no concept of personal hygiene in any modern sense, and this complete absence of basic sanitary practice, combined with overcrowded cities and contaminated water, became one of the factors that accelerated the epidemics that regularly devastated medieval Europe. It is here that this ordinary household object touches its darkest chapter. Throughout the 19th century, as cities exploded in size during the Industrial Revolution, the working-class neighborhoods of London, Paris, and New York turned into pockets of horrifying filth. Dozens of families crowded into a single building without any proper toilet, sewage ran straight through the streets, and drinking water often mixed with waste. Under these conditions, outbreaks of cholera and typhoid killed thousands of people every single year. London physician John Snow proved in 1854 that a cholera outbreak in one district of the city spread through contaminated water, and this discovery permanently changed how governments approached public sanitation. Poverty in this era did not simply mean a lack of money. It meant living every day surrounded by filth, disease, and stench, conditions the wealthy were safely protected from through nothing more than money spent on clean water and private toilets. Sanitary inequality quite literally decided who would survive and who would die from illnesses that are easily avoidable today. In the United States of the 19th century, a distinctly practical tradition took hold. Farming families widely used dried corn cobs once the kernels had been harvested. And once thick mail-order catalogs began arriving by post, including the well-known Sears catalog, these books of thin, glossy paper became a free alternative hung on a nail inside the outhouse. This is not an urban legend, but a documented household practice confirmed by memoirs and photographs from the period. Against this backdrop of widespread filth, one man decided that people deserved something better. New York businessman Joseph Gaiety launched the world's first commercial toilet paper in 1857, individual flat sheets infused with aloe. He even printed his own name on every single sheet, treating it as a mark of quality worth being proud of. But society was not ready. Buying such a product in a store meant publicly admitting exactly what it was for, and the shame of facing a shopkeeper and neighbors proved stronger than any advertising. The product sold poorly, and Gaiety himself never lived to see his idea succeed. The real breakthrough came only decades later, when the Scott brothers and their company took on the challenge. They made one decisive change that transformed everything. Instead of selling individual sheets, they began selling paper wound onto a roll, and most importantly, they removed their own name from the packaging entirely, distributing the product under anonymous private labels for pharmacies and stores so customers could ask for it without ever having to say a manufacturer's name out loud or feel embarrassed doing so. It was a brilliant marketing move aimed not at competitors, but at shame itself. Only in the early 20th century, with advertising campaigns that spoke openly about softness and hygiene without prudishness, did toilet paper finally transform from a delicate secret into an ordinary, everyday product found in every American and European home. It would seem the story should end quietly here, but it took one more unexpected turn. In December of 1973, American television host Johnny Carson joked live on his late-night show that the country was facing a toilet paper shortage. The joke was completely baseless, nothing more than an off-the-cuff line for a laugh. But the next morning, millions of viewers who took the joke literally rushed to stores and stripped the shelves bare within days. Manufacturers, who could not physically ramp up production overnight, only seemed to confirm people's worst fears, and the panic lasted nearly 3 weeks before factories caught up with demand. One failed joke on live television revealed just how fragile public confidence could be, even over the simplest of things. Today, this story continues in two completely opposite directions. In Japan, the company Toto released the first mass-market toilet with a built-in bidet function called the washlet back in 1980, and today, such devices are installed in the vast majority of Japanese households, fundamentally reshaping the very idea of hygiene without paper at all. At the same time, on a global scale, toilet paper production remains an enormous burden on the planet's forests. According to environmental organizations, millions of trees are cut down for this industry every year, and the manufacturing process consumes vast amounts of water and energy. This has pushed a growing number of manufacturers toward recycled paper and fast, renewable materials such as bamboo. And there is one more place where this story takes a truly unexpected final turn, a place located beyond Earth itself. Aboard the International Space Station, an ordinary roll of paper simply cannot be used the way it is on the ground, because nothing behaves the same way in zero gravity. Astronauts rely on specially engineered vacuum toilets that use airflow to draw waste away, since without gravity nothing falls downward on its own. Developing these systems has cost space agencies millions of dollars, and on one occasion, a toilet malfunction in orbit even became a matter of serious international concern, simply because there was no alternative available in space. Humanity's oldest and most mundane problem had become one of the most complex engineering challenges of the space age. From a sponge on a stick in a Roman latrine to a vacuum toilet in orbit around the Earth, humanity spent thousands of years searching for an answer to one simple question. That answer decided who died from disease and who survived, who society considered clean and who it considered filthy, and even whether a person would feel ashamed inside their own local store. And when people pushed past each other in supermarket aisles in the spring of 2020, fighting over the last roll on the shelf, they were, without realizing it, repeating the oldest instinct of their species. The fear of being left without the simplest and most intimate object in daily life proved just as powerful as it was thousands of years ago, when our ancestors were simply searching for the nearest leaf.